Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone in person and also virtually. Welcome to the February 12th, 2026 Landmark Commission meeting. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio Open Meeting Law and Section 101.021 of the Codified Ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings based on the Robert Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal from any case due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the beginning of the presentation. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, virtual attendants will use the raised hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found on the participants panel on the desktop and mobile versions and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raised hand icon again and muting your microphone. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activities are being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through the proper channels has been considered. Proper channels for comments are sending an email to the landmark@clevelandohio.gov email address with a comment or letter, calling or leaving a message at 216-664-2532, or sending a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall located at 601 Lakeside Avenue, Suite 519. Communication with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the stated deadline are collected by Landmark staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any meetings scheduled. Mr. Musson?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to go through the meeting rules and procedures, the chair will call each agenda item and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation is concluded, the chair will ask Landmark staff to summarize Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations and any public comment received. The deadline for public comment is noon on the Tuesday prior to any regularly scheduled Cleveland Landmarks Commission meeting. Any received comments are distributed to commission members prior to the meeting. Staff will also identify any members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. The chair will then request a recommendation from staff. The commission will then begin deliberations of project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called.
We'll now call the February 12th, 2026 Landmark Commission meeting to order. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Dulick? Councilmember Gray? Mr. Lozier?
Here.
Director Mersman?
Here.
Mr. Sambry? Here. Mr. Strickland? Mr. Trasick?
Here.
Dr. Williams?
Here.
And Ms. Trott?
Here.
And Madam Chair, we do have quorum. Also like to note that we have myself and Jessica Beam from the Landmarks office present and Sierra Lipscomb from Law here today.
Excellent. Then we will begin with our certificates of appropriateness. We would like to welcome the first applicant forward to announce yourself and tell us about your project. The first applicant is Studio Think, located at 5800 Detroit Avenue. New signage.
Hi, good morning. This is Marie Cipolletta with Signorama in Cleveland.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. These are dimensional building letters that are acrylic with a metal face, brushed aluminum face. They're not illuminated. They're going to be mounted blind stud with silicone to have spacer pads on the back of them. Our first meeting, they had the letters installed above the window, and it was requested that they get moved to below the window, which is, I believe, what I submitted to Jessica last week. So that shows that they have been moved below.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for the presentation. Before we get to our
welcome.
comments, we will move on to the local advisory committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Historic West Cleveland Design Review Advisory Committee on February 4th. As our applicant noted, the previous presentation shown here that the committee saw showed the signage above the window. And so
Answer all I did this morning was
and the committee thought that it would be more visible, make more sense for navigation and wayfinding and brand awareness if it was located closer to the door on the street level, in line with the sign that is installed on the other side, which was previously approved by that committee. So overall, they were supportive of the sign, just recommended that it be moved to have consistency across the building and also better visibility at that lower space, and to have the location closer to the doors. And those conditions were met by the applicant.
Excellent. And landmark staff recommendation?
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Staff appreciates the changes made by the applicant based on the Design Review Advisory Committee's recommendations. We do think a panel behind the sign, behind the text might be helpful for not only readability and visibility, but also to reduce the number of penetrations in the wood siding. And since this is a second floor tenant, there seems to be some question about the zoning and the allowability of the sign in its specific location. Second floor tenants are allowed 12 square feet of signage above the doorway to their, like the entrance to their business. So we've gotten a couple different interpretations on that. So staff would just recommend, approval granting any needed variances to the sign code.
Okay, thank you. We'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who'd like to start us off? I'm sorry? Oh, Miss Anderson, thank you. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a pen issue here that I just am dealing with. So please, Miss Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first floor corner space is vacant. And my concern is that if something goes in there, even though I like the way the sign is situated between the bay window and the turret, I'm concerned that if something goes in that first floor space, the signs for the signage for the first floor space may conflict and cause confusion with, or just be too busy with the signage for that upstairs space. Otherwise, I like the sign. I actually like where it's placed, but that's my concern.
All right, thank you, Miss Anderson. Other questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Sandberry?
I would agree with Ms. Anderson. Just a point of clarification, which door is theirs?
Through the chair, my understanding is it's the door kind of directly under the S in their signage.
Okay.
So it lines up above their doorway, but it's not centered on their doorway. And I guess sharing Ms. Anderson's concern about confusion about which space is theirs, because I believe the corner tenant, their space kind of wraps around the back of this doorway, which the doorway opens into a stairwell that goes upstairs. And then the tenant space, I believe, wraps around and connects to both storefronts on either side of that doorway. For the first floor tenant, the corner tenant. So it's kind of an awkward situation. Not a lot of great opportunities or alternatives for signage for this tenant on the second floor. I think we recommended exploring a projecting sign early in the process, just, like a small above the door signage, but I believe the applicant wanted something a little more visible. And there's still, staff feels that there's still opportunities for that corner tenant to have signage. There was previously a projecting sign on the turret. So there's that opportunity again. But this, this does limit those opportunities.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Stanberry. Mr. Lozier?
That was mine.
Okay, excellent. Other questions and comments from the commission? I'd have to say I agree. I think it's one of these sort of gray areas. I do think it is understandable, in my opinion, that it is related to the door that it's adjacent, maybe not the storefront that it's adjacent. And if there's the opportunity for signage on the corner that relates to the corner tenant, then I can be more comfortable with the sign and where it's located. I only wonder if it was slightly smaller, so that when additional signage is added adjacent to it, it's not competing with those, because I do like the sign. I do like it centered. I think off-centered would feel a little awkward. But I only wonder if a little bit smaller would, and with that sign panel or the back panel behind the sign letters could help also rein it in and make it a little bit more understandable. So I'm in support of adding the panel behind it to try to minimize the penetrations, but also to make it a little bit more legible, because I think I like the white color, but I think it's also may get lost on that light color building. So I'm in support of signage there, but I would recommend putting the panel behind it and or reducing the size some. And how does the square footage of the sign compare to the 12 square feet that is acceptable?
Based on the feedback we received, they calculated this at 12.5 square feet. But the initial feedback we got was kind of no variances needed, but then further discussion it seemed like there was some question there. So our recommendation would be to play it safe, and just grant any required variances to the signage code, because it seems like there's some room for interpretation on this one. So not sure who will ultimately end up reviewing it for zoning when it hits the desk for permit.
But if they reduced it by half a square foot to be 12 square feet or below, then they would be compliant and wouldn't have to seek any variances.
They would be compliant with the square footage, but I think there's also question on the interpretation of above the doorway. I think the 12 square feet is usually meant for like a plaque next to the doorway, or like, in the transom above that doorway. It's not typically signage over a storefront. This is an awkward situation because you've got a doorway that goes upstairs, kind of buried in the middle of some storefronts that kind of wrap around it. And but yeah, I think the code is sort of intending for signage to be, directly on or above the doorway.
Okay. I still think because I guess I favor reducing it some to that 12 square feet to give, potential that it would be compliant without, any variances. Would be my preference, but I'm open to other feedback. Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in agreement with what everyone has said so far, but I do think reducing the size of the sign it would help to de-emphasize it as a first floor tenant. I mean, I understand the initial, so I don't think we saw the initial proposal, but typically second floor tenant would have signage higher up on the building. There's really no precedent for that specifically within this area. So I think the location of where this is fine, but I think the size really is a size that feels like it should be for the first floor tenant. So I would agree with reducing the overall size of the sign to make it a little bit more secondary feeling when it compared to the Mavuno sign next door, and then allow that first floor tenant a little bit more space and or flexibility with what that signage ultimately will be in the future. And I think the other thing too, which is maybe a little confusing, is that, you know, while it's over the door, I don't know if additional sort of clarification, meaning, you know, second floor tenant or something, you know, within the the door itself that sort of announces that this is the tenant, and that's really the door that you should be going in. But those are my comments.
Yes, Mary, I'm sorry, did I say that? Marie, sorry.
Yes, Marie. So from my understanding from the first meeting, that first floor tenant actually has signage availability in the turret there, and their door is underneath that. So all of those windows that we're seeing underneath Studio Think is all of the first floor tenant. The doorway is their entrance to the upstairs. So the first floor already has space for signage on that turret that's above their door.
Agree, but thank you. We do agree with that and are aligned with that. I think we're just trying to make sure that there's enough breadth between the signs in the future that it feels appropriate for all. Okay, other questions and comments from the commission? Would someone like to put forward a motion? Mr. Stanberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make a motion to approve as presented with the recommendation that they revisit the size of the signage to be within compliance with the first requirement. I don't think that's a recommendation, but I think we would grant any variances. Is that the right word? Okay, grant variances needed for the signage for this space. We also would recommend a study of a backer plate of some sort and repositioning it smaller, closer to the door. Was that also recommended or not recommended?
I think it could be centered. I mean, I think for the storefront, it looks
Okay.
much nicer.
But
Perfect.
overall, accepted as presented.
Can I make one
Absolutely.
suggestion? Rather than recommending required that the signs reduce below the 12 square feet requirement?
Yes, I thought I saw that the letters were already produced. Maybe I'm making that up. Letter example. Okay. Then, yeah,
Yes,
we'll work on-
so they are using existing letters from their old location. So this would require them to get brand new letters and redo the entire thing at an additional cost.
So I'm gonna keep it up-
Condition or
I'm gonna
recommendation?
keep it as a recommendation.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so we have a motion with conditions. Do we have a second? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Leisure. Any further discussion?
One thing that I might request be added is consideration for some window decal on the door that reinforces that that's the entry door and it's the second floor tenant. Again, just want to make sure that it's clear and give them the opportunity to be able to add that
In the future.
in the future.
Okay, excellent. All right, so any further discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Stanberry?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
consent.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Yes, Marie?
If you're requesting that they put some kind of door signage, is that going to reduce the 12 square foot that you're allowing, or would that go into it? So they would have to reduce their signage more to allow that window graphic?
If their variances to the signage code are granted, then you could go over that 12 square foot over the square footage with the additional signage, and it would still be covered by that approval since it's one motion.
You're already over it.
Yes, yeah.
So you're already exceeding it. You're not compliant with it. So if we're not reducing the size of it, then
Okay, so the
you're,
variance would be needed regardless. If they don't reduce the size since they're already using existing letters, is what you're saying. I just want to make sure that's
Correct.
correct. Okay.
Correct,
That's-
correct, yes.
yeah, okay, I want to make sure I interpreted correctly. Mr. Lozier?
And then I would just maybe add to that too, if there is sort of window decal that gets added in the future, to review that with staff, before installation.
Required to come back to staff.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for those clarifications.
Mr. Yes. Samberry, work that into the motion. All right. Thank you.
All right, then Mr. Messon, please call roll.
And Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Director Mersman,
Yes.
Mr. Samberry,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trot.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent, congratulations. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
We'll then move on to our next applicant, located at 4205 Woodbine Avenue, window installation.
Hello, my name is Mark Georgie. Nice to meet all of you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So yeah, a little bit about our project. We purchased this home back in April of 25. At the time, the siding on the house was really worn down, and the windows were leaking a lot of air. We reached out to the Cleveland Historic Department and we talked to them about possibly doing vinyl siding, but they said that they don't recommend doing that. So we wanted to preserve the kind of the historic nature of the house, so we decided to go with just repaint the wood the same blue color that it was to just keep it the same way it was. What we didn't realize at the time was the windows. The windows were leaking a lot of air, so we replaced the windows using vinyl windows. We didn't want to change the appearance of the home at all. So I'm hoping you can see from the photos that they do look almost identical to what they previously looked like, but we didn't realize that they weren't supposed to be vinyl in the first place, or it's not recommended, I guess. So according to the photos, we're asking permission to keep those windows as we change them. So the pictures with the bars are the old windows, and then the new windows, those bars are removed. But as you can tell, like the paint was really chipped and worn, so we repainted the home, and then we put in those new windows to stop all the air from leaking in. Mm.
And can you tell us a little bit about the type of window that you installed?
Yep. So I think there's an image on one of those slides that show it's a double pane, double hung vinyl windows. Yeah, we tried to keep it. We didn't want to change the appearance, so we tried to keep it pretty much just like a standard double hung vinyl window.
And were there any previous mutton patterns on this building? It's all traditional double hung?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Before we get to our comments, we will move on to. There you go. We will move on to Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee. They initially met and reviewed it in December of 2025. At that time, there was a discussion on appropriate window type materials, and so the committee tabled the project to allow the applicant to review our residential window repair and replacement guide, possibly reach out to the Cleveland Restoration Society for advice on window replacements. They did return in February for review, and there was discussion on the concern on the setting a precedent for approving after work is complete without changes. And so the committee did offer a recommendation for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with a condition that the four front windows, on the front facade, be replaced with an appropriate material, working with Landmark staff on the appropriate material for that. And they were fine with the windows on the sides and rear that were replaced, but I'm concerned on that front facade.
And that is in the alignment with the window policy that we have.
Yes.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And then we'll move on to Landmark staff recommendation.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, staff shares the concerns of the local committee about the precedent of approving after the fact, essentially people asking for forgiveness instead of permission or approval. But staff has spoken with this applicant a couple of times outside of the meetings. It sounds like there was some confusion when they initially reached out to the Cleveland Restoration Society about the siding. They understood that that was an issue, that they're in a historic district, siding would be an issue. They didn't realize that windows were included, as something we'd be concerned about. So they went ahead with replacing those. But the applicant is aware now that any exterior changes have to come through our design review process. I mean, this one, I think, given the style of the home and the simplicity of the 1/1 windows that were there, the trim is already white. The previous windows were white, so we don't find these replacements objectionable. I would only say is that if you pass a motion to approve the installation, that you're specific as to why you're approving it, with the work having already been done, to try and avoid setting that precedent.
One clarification, was the work done previous to the December?
Yes, I think there was some confusion. The applicant wasn't able to join us. His wife was there. I think there was, that wasn't, the committee was not aware that the work was already done at the December meeting. So I think that's why it ended up being discussed over 2 meetings instead of just one.
Understood, thank you. All right, then we'll open up the floor of the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off? Delozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple of, I guess, questions. So the window replacement would typically be something that would need to get a building permit, correct?
Correct.
So this was done without a permit?
Correct.
Okay, so just recognizing that, just to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. So any work to the exterior of a home needs a permit. And being in an historic district, that means you have to go through this review body. So that's something that gets tacked on as part of that process. And had this gone through the proper channels, it would have been flagged as something that needed to come through us. So just want to make sure that we put that out there. And as Dan had mentioned, any future work to this home or any home within the historic district will have to go through this body. So roofing, any siding changes, any this particular home, any sort of changes to the balustrade, things like that, we need to come through this body. So just recognizing that. My first question, I guess, is, were the windows that were removed original to the home, or were those replacement windows? And what type of windows were they? Were they wood windows? Were they vinyl? Were they some other material?
They were also vinyl windows. I don't know if they were original to the home though. They based on their condition, I believe they were, just because they were in pretty bad shape. But I'm not positive.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to tell if, at least from the photos, if they were originally, or if if they were vinyl, they probably were not original, but it's hard to tell if those are vinyl or wood windows, from the photos. But that said, I personally am willing to grant a little bit of leniency, as these were not, they may not have been and don't really look like from these photos, that they were the original windows for the home. So in light of that, I'd be more willing to be more lenient on approving the replacement as replaced. Especially if the windows that were replaced were already vinyl.
Okay.
Is that my
Yes,
comments?
thank you, Mr. Lozier. I don't know if you can zoom, Mr. Samberry, you zooming me in?
They look like, I can't tell what the original window is, but it looks like an aluminum storm on the outside of them.
Yeah, because you can't see what the interior window is.
And I guess I'll raise my hand and talk. The applicant, you mentioned that the windows with the steel bars over them were, what was the comment that you made about the steel bars versus the non-steel barred windows?
I just that a good way to tell what was the old one versus the new one, because the new ones we removed the steel bars.
Okay. So there wasn't a difference between the picture that's on the screen now between the lower windows and the upper windows that have steel bars and do not have steel bars?
Those are all the old windows. So
Okay.
just the lower ones had the steel bars, top ones didn't. But then in the new photo, I believe none of the four should have steel bars.
Understood. Thank you.
Other questions and comments from the commission? I guess I will go next. I can support the replacement of the windows on the sides and rear with vinyl, because per our requirements, vinyl is typically not acceptable, but we do make some provisions on side and rear. For the front windows, I guess I really would like to know what those original windows were. If they were vinyl, then I could grant that as the exception, that the original windows are not there to replace with a material of kind. But not knowing if they were in vinyl or not, I am struggling with the four windows on the front of the house. And the photographs from the interior are helpful, but are not for the front, for me personally.
Good. Am I allowed to talk? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I know when we were working on them, even what we wanted to just, I said, can you just replace these windows? When I was working with our family friend, the goal was pretty much to just replace them with new ones, basically, to just make it the same, just ones that don't leak. So I didn't, even during the work, we didn't ask for like a different type of window or anything. So it really was just a replacement. So I believe that's why I believe it's the same exact type of window, for that reason, just because the goal was not to change appearance or anything. It was just to get ones that don't leak.
So understood you wanted a better performance window, and that's absolutely important. And we appreciate you, maintaining the wood siding and talking to the Restoration Society to make sure that you were working with those guidelines. So I failed to say that earlier, so I want to say it now that, we appreciate you trying to take the right steps. And that's also why I can grant an exception for the 3 sides because, sometimes it's just the unknown. But the front, I don't know if there's any way we can validate what the material was on that previously.
Yeah, I guess based on the presence of the aluminum triple track, staff have been assuming that there were, wood windows under there. Typically, when there's a vinyl replacement, they take off the triple tracks. And we appreciate the removal of the metal bars on the windows.
Right, I agree.
And, it certainly provides a cleaner look than the triple tracks, but we were operating under the understanding that there were wood windows behind those triple track windows, whether they were original or not.
Do you have, to the applicant, do you have any photographs, other photographs of the interior of these windows that really does validate that they're vinyl, that are closer and more detailed? Obviously that would help probably sway me on the front because we do have to, we want to set the right precedents for all here and moving forward.
I don't believe I have any other photos. I think I added them. We added the ones we had to the presentation.
Ms. Anderson?
I found some photos.
Oh,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I found some photos in the old listing, if you want to take a look at them.
I'm not gonna use my right hand because it's all bad.
That looks like wood.
No.
And they had the same.
Usually
They are
hardware.
wood. They are wood. They're painted in a certain way.
We're just looking at some photographs. So sorry for all those online. Usually it's a hardware. You can sometimes tell too, right? So it wouldn't be white if it was.
Special. Never selling it.
Um. Director? Oh, sorry. Okay. Other questions and comments from the commission? So we have 2 ways to move forward. We can, obviously move forward with a motion, or we can table and see if there's ways to get additional information about the front 4 windows to allow us to make an appropriate decision. Thoughts from the commission?
Madam Chair, I mean, the one way, the one way might be if the applicant was able to provide the actual digital photos as individual files rather than in the presentation. That may allow us to get a little bit better resolution, be able to see a little bit better, but that might be a way to sort of, if it was tabled, to give us a little bit more time to take a look at this.
I would be comfortable with that. Thoughts of other commission members? Dr. Williams?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious with the images that that you all were just discussing from the earlier listing for the home, were you able to really form an opinion about whether the windows were wooden? Would it help to have those images shared at another meeting in the future?
That's in a way what we're discussing, seeing if we can get the digital files. It's a little difficult on the iPad right now in the context of the meeting to, evaluate any closer. So I think that's what we're saying is one option is to move forward with motion or to move forward with tabling this, asking for those files in a digital format so that we can zoom in and validate that they were vinyl and replaced with vinyl. So they're replaced in kind versus replacing the original windows with vinyl.
Okay, and the listing that Ms. Anderson referred to, that's for the real estate when the property was sold?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Trosik?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think there's any harm in suggesting tabling this so that we can all be more comfortable in knowing what was there before these windows were there. It doesn't seem like there's an immediate issue. The windows have already been replaced. I don't think there's any harm in coming back where we have a little bit more information to be able to make a decision. It doesn't appear though that this is something that where there is any issue with. I mean, it looks like the windows are fine. They've been replaced. They're fine the way it is. It doesn't look like there's any emergency right now that would make time of the essence that we decide on this today. So perhaps it would be a better decision to wait until we're all more comfortable knowing what was there prior to what's there now.
Great feedback, Mr. Trosik. So with that, I'd like to ask the applicant permission to table your application. It would allow you to submit the files, or we'd request you to submit the digital files of the images of the front facade that were used previous or within your presentation, both interior and exterior, to allow us to look at that more to help validate, or any additional photographs or information from your purchase that would allow us validate the materials of those front floor windows. But we do need your permission to table.
Okay, yeah, I can do my best to find, or at least send the photos I have in digital format, or find new ones. I'll look around.
Okay, we appreciate that. All right, with permission from the owner, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to table.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Anderson, for the second. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Hey, Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Mr. Sambry,
Yes.
Mr. Trosik,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes,
and Ms. Trot.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay. So we look forward to seeing those files. As soon as they're submitted, you could come back as soon as 2 weeks, or our next meeting, I should say, if there's room on the agenda. All right. So thank you. We look forward to seeing you again here shortly.
Thank you.
We'll then move on to our third applicant, Total Wireless, located at 9716 Lorraine Avenue, signage in storefront. Do we have someone present from Be Next Awnings and Graphics for the Total Wireless?
I'm the owner of the building, but I think the worker for B Next is supposed to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Jenny is here. I don't know if she's muted, if she had to step away from her computer.
The owner's permission, then I'd like to just skip over your case and move on to the next one, and we can come back when she may be available.
Hi,
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Good
Hi.
morning.
I have some issues with my microphone. Sorry. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. We welcome. We'd love for you to tell us about your project.
Thank you. So today we have this project located at 9716 Lorraine Avenue. This is going to be a total wireless sign. If you can please, well, actually that's the last picture, I think. Okay, there you go. Thank you. So for this time, we propose a tiny letter signs to be attached on the awning. This actual awning is going to be installed and manufactured brand new from us as well as the landlord request. Those letters will be internally illuminated with LEDs as we usually do. And the letter is going to be attached to the awning with the rail system. If you can please move here we have some installations details. As you can see, the letters are going to be mounted to the awning with the rail system, and each letter is going to be attached to the rail with some brackets. Then we have the awning that is going to be mounted to the wall at the front with this burgundy red color. It looks more brightened than it's supposed to, but actually this is not a bright color. We are going to use the same exactly red that the brand has for the awning. If you can move it, please, a little bit. Yep. So here we have the specifications of the awning. As you can see, it's 22 feet long by 4 feet high. It's going to be open-ended at the sides of it. So pretty much we are just going to have the front bar. Can you please move thank you. Yeah, here we have just some random pictures of the buildings that we have near. Usually on this area we can see clouds or channel letter signs. Thank you. If Josh would like to add something to the presentation.
Yeah. We went to the meeting last week and got some good feedback. Essentially, we plan to repaint the front of the building a color that closely matches the brick, which would be more of a brown color, which is what they recommended, which I agree with is a good idea. And then also they wanted us to put back the recessed door, which we also agreed to do. So I have no issues with any of those things, and I think the sign looks quite nice. So yeah.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Before we get to our comments, we'll move on to the Local Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Historic West Cleveland Design Review Advisory Committee initially on January 7th of this year. There was discussion at that point because what was presented then was signage located in the transom windows and the awning removed from the storefront. And so there's a lot of discussion on changes to the storefront that were made. And so ultimately at that meeting, they recommended or they tabled the project to allow for time to look into relocating the sign from the transom windows into possibly an awning or another location, and to return the storefront to its original appearance, to remove that, to put back the recessed entry that was there previously. And so when the applicant came back at the next meeting, which was February 4th, the proposal is what we've seen now. And so they did discuss, as our applicant mentioned, painting the storefront a color that's more in line with the brick color, and a lot of and to also have the awning cover be a canvas material as appropriate for a historic district. There's a lot of discussion on just the limitations of where to put a sign on the storefront. There's not really a sign ban on the building. And if the awning was not present, then the committee would want to see those transom windows restored back to open transom windows. And so they also spoke about possibly painting the railing that the sign is installed on the awning to make sure that the rail system disappears a bit into that, and just wanting to make sure that the red color, because it's hard to tell on a computer, as our applicant mentioned, it's a deeper color than is shown, and so being able to see like a physical copy of that. So ultimately they recommended the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with conditions for the canvas material on the awning, the rail in two parts painted to match the awning, the storefront repainted a color closer to the brick, the door entry returned to the original configuration, and possible other security options worked out with staff. And then the final colors of the awning and storefront to be submitted, and noting that there's no other proposed signage for the windows or for the door included with this. So if there is other signage wanted for like informational or window signage, that should come for a separate review.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Then we'll move on to landmark staff recommendations.
And thank you, Madam Chair. So this is actually two agenda items. When this first came to our office, it was a proposal for signage, but then as we looked at the building, we realized that it's changed since last time we saw it. And just in hopping in the little Google Maps time machine thing, if you go back to August of 2024, the building still had its original windows. On the second floor, the recess was still present. There was an awning over the transom. But if you go back, a little further in Google Maps, as you can see in 2014, the transoms were still present. So there's some question as to whether that transoms are still behind that wood panel. But historically, we've typically give the option of either restoring the transom windows or covering that area with an awning. So this applicant has opted to put up the awning and then try to incorporate signage in it. I guess staff has essentially we broke this into two agenda items, one to deal with the signage and that request and proposal, and the other to kind of start the discussion and address the other changes to the building that have been made. Not sure if it was the current owner or the previous owner, but with the owner here, maybe he can clarify some of that. But I think, staff is largely aligned with the local committee in this. Happy to hear that the applicant is willing to restore the recess to the doorway and paint the storefront system a more complementary color. But we do still have concerns about the loss of the second floor windows and, just want to make sure that we see changes on this building before they're enacted.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for those recommendations and that feedback. I'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. So to the owner, was the work done to the storefront previous to your ownership, or were you the owner when that work was done?
Hello, it's Josh, the owner. The work, we did the work, I'll be honest, because I'll just give a quick explanation. Surely there's no excuse, obviously, for changing it, but the windows were broken into multiple times, and there was a couple of homeless people living in the recessed entryway. And so essentially we boarded it up initially, and then they just kind of kept the wood there. Obviously, that was the wrong decision, but yeah, they kept breaking into it, and the area is kind of known for having a lot of homeless activity and things like that. So that's kind of why they boarded it up. But yeah, they definitely did board that up, and the glass was removed on the top transom area.
Okay, well, thank you for being honest and letting us know that. We appreciate that. Other questions and comments from the commission? So let's talk about the signage first, and then let's talk about the storefront. 'Cause we have two different, cases here, right? So you can't really put them they're hard to split apart, but let's pick one and talk about it and then talk about the second. Mr. Lozier.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I appreciate the presentation and the context around this and the intention to restore the storefront back to what it was. And I understand the precedents that you've included as part of the package. But I don't know that an awning sign with an awning with a lit sign attached to it is in keeping with the spirit and the context of the streetscape in this area. This is the only storefront on this particular building that has an awning. There are awnings on the building directly across the street where the signage is included sort of within the sort of horizontal flat or vertical flat band. and those are vinyl letters and not lit. So it's a little incongruous with kind of what's, within the building itself and across the street. The examples of the lit signage that are included are on standalone buildings and not sort of within a larger sort of storefront within a larger building context. That said, this is also a challenging building in that the architecture itself doesn't allow for a really great place to, be able to put signage. So you're really limited to, again, the sort of the transom area or within an awning itself. What I think might be more successful is if you look a little bit further, the block that's further east, there's signage that was installed for Genesis Childcare Academy, which is a, I don't know if it's a lit sign, but it sort of hovers within the opening of the sort of the recess of the storefront. Something maybe closer to that might be more appropriate in this case than the signage that's attached to the awning as proposed today. And I don't know if you're familiar with the signage that was installed just down the street, but looking at Google Street View right now, and it seems to me that that might be a more appropriate application of signage for this particular instance.
Agree. Understand.
I guess those are my comments.
Thank you,
Can
Mr.
I
Lozier.
please add one point? This is just the owner, Josh.
Yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to add the point that there was an awning previously there as shown in the image. And that awning looked to have been there for probably 30, 40 years. I don't know. It was very old and tattered. So that's also part of the reason we want to put the awning back. It's essentially we're returning it to what it was there, was an awning. So just thought I'd mention the point that the awning was existing and looked to have been there for, I don't know how long, but definitely lived a long life. So thank you.
Thank you for that feedback also. Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair, I think that the difference between the awning that was there previously was that it was closer in style to the awnings that are across the street, where there's sort of vinyl lettering that would be on the vertical face of the side of the awning versus introducing an awning sort of shed style awning with the lettering sort of attached vertically to that. So it's a little bit, I understand where you're coming from, but it's a little bit different context from what you're proposing to what was there previously.
Right, this style, the awning style had a valance that where I could,
Thank you.
Dan, had the, it's all Dan, with the valance that had this signage, the vinyl letter signage applied to the valance. Other questions and comments from the commission? I would agree with what Mr. Lozier's comments is that, I could support the replacing the awning, but would require it to be a valance style awning to match the style across the street. And I suspect maybe the style that was previously there, and changing the signage from a internally illuminated sign to the vinyl letters on the awning, or stay with the internal illuminated signage, but working it into the transom, but would require some restoration of the transom to be able to incorporate that. Other questions and comments from the commission? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am in alignment with what you are saying.
Thank you. All right, then let's move on to we'll leave that one here for a moment and let's move on to the second half of the conversation, which is about the storefront. Questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Lozier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my main question is, are the areas behind the infill from the sort of building line back, or is all of that material still intact, or was that removed as part of the infill?
I'm gonna have to ask for a little bit more of a description of what you mean by that.
Yes, it looks like there's the storefront that's sort of directly in line with the front of the building, where there's the sort of like the brick coursing below and then the big storefront windows above. Are the angled walls that go back to the inset door and the glass that's part of that still intact, or was that
Oh, okay.
removed?
No, that was removed. I see what you're saying now. You're talking about the part that on the sides of the door. That goes in.
Yes.
Yeah, that part has been removed. Yeah.
And what about we'll call it the window sill of the storefront? The previous windows, like storefront window sill, or where it appears to be, could be wrong, but appears to be lower than what is currently shown in the blue storefront shown on the screen.
No, the windows are original, and so is the brick that's there on the sides. If that's what is that what you're mentioning?
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah.
Infill with transom, maybe that's lower than, it changes the perspective.
It might just change the perspective because also the paint color or whatever, and they also put lights around it. Maybe that's what it is. But the brick is original, and so is the two front pieces of glass on the left and the right.
Okay. What's that? Does it? Okay. Okay, well, I think that's helpful to know if that's original. We are closer, but I'm sorry, I'm looking at the screen. Is what material was used to replace the transom windows that were previously there in 2014? Is that just
sanded plywood?
Painted plywood. So is there a way to rebuild the transom in?
There surely is. The only thing that I was considering mostly is I don't have a problem reintroducing the transom, but I just thought the awning would be a better solution for timing, for speed of getting the sign approved and the tenant happy as well. Since the weather's been so bad, it's kind of difficult to work on something like that at the moment. But yeah, anything's possible, but essentially I just thought the awning would be the best solution.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. That's helpful to hear your perspective also. I mean, I guess my personal opinion, based on hearing that, is that I could approve what's presented with changing the awning to a valance style awning and changing the signage to a vinyl letter applied to the valance of that awning, and then painting the current storefront in a more harmonious color to the building itself. Or, we could explore restoring the transom and using an internally illuminated signage within that transom. So those are I can't approve what was, I shouldn't say that, I should have said that differently. I personally can't approve what's presented today. My recommendation would be either changing the awning and the signage and painting the storefront as is, or restoring your storefront transoms and then using internally illuminated signage within that area. So those would be my two recommendations, but currently I cannot approve what's presented today. Other questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Stanberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with you. I see two options going forward, either with an awning that is non-illuminated signage or illuminated signage within the transom, restored transom.
Agree. So, any other feedback?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with that. I think if you're gonna have the illuminated signage, it would go in the open glass transom. Otherwise, I think that would be my preference, actually. Otherwise, an awning with the vinyl lettering, it would probably work there. And I do want to emphasize that I do want to see the recessed doorway put back, and I appreciate the applicant's willingness to do that.
Mr. Stanberry?
To that point, this is not the original storefront compared to the rest of the building. Was this storefront reviewed at some point further back? Because I don't want them to recreate a non-original history or ask them to recreate a non-original historic recess, even though it is similar to the rest of the buildings. I don't know that we want to ask them. We're not going in the right direction.
I think I understand where you're heading, through the chair. So no, the storefront that's currently present looks like it was a replacement from probably the 50s or 60s, potentially based on the type of aluminum system it is, and then the brick bulkhead wall. I think it's sort of a historic enough element that it's gained in its own integrity through its own right, just by nature of being there for long enough. So restoring it to that different era than the building sort of tells the history of the building, tells the story of it. You've got a early 1900s building that was modified sometime in the mid-century, and now we're 75 years later. So I think restoring it to that the previous condition would be appropriate. And that's sort of the guidance that we follow through the city's storefront design guidelines and manual. That we got visual aids here. But just that when something is present and it's been there for a long time, we try and keep it as part of the building.
Okay, so to the applicant, I don't believe what I am hearing is that we cannot support what was presented today. We could support an alternate to it, the two that I outlined, of either maintaining and moving forward with the awning, but changing the material and style of the awning and changing the signage to a vinyl signage applied to the valance of the awning, like across the street, or in reworking the transoms. Either way, we'd like to give you the time to think about that and explore it. So we'd like your permission to table you and give you an opportunity to, decide what direction you'd like to move forward. If you do not want to be tabled, we can move forward with a motion. But if you do not pass, then you will start back at the beginning.
Well, it sounds like I'd probably lose that motion, so I'm just gonna go with table.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your permission. With owner's permission, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to table.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Lozier?
Sorry, I probably should have qualified this too. I would recommend meeting with staff to sort of clarify and go over what our recommendations were relative to this process too. I think it'll help you come back with probably the right sort of direction as to what would be sort of amenable to this group. So I would strongly recommend reviewing and meeting with staff to talk through the options.
I do have one question. We've met with the West Cleveland, historic group, and they kind of guided us through this, and I was part of that meeting, and they were huge fans of the canvas. And this is my first time doing something like this, but to hear them say that it was a great idea that represents the historic nature of it, and then come here and hear the exact opposite, it's kind of like, I'm just curious what the do you guys have communication with them? Do they have an understanding of the same ideas, or do they just completely focus on like their own ideas, and then you guys have your own whole entire different set of expectations? I just thought they'd be more uniformly aligned, maybe. That was my only inquiry, because we did try to incorporate everything they mentioned, which they gave us a lot of great ideas, because we had 2 meetings with them, and they kind of gave us an idea of materials, and we brought forth the idea of the lighted letters and how we were gonna secure them there, and they thought it was all a great idea. And maybe I just don't know how the process works exactly, but to hear how different their recommendation versus your expectation was shocking. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, our design review advisory committees are just that, they're advisory to the Landmarks Commission. So the Landmarks Commission, this body makes the final determination on all projects. So they take into account feedback from the design review advisory committee, feedback from staff, any community comments received. And both bodies, both the design review advisory committee and the Landmarks Commission, use the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation in their decision making. Those standards, they're fairly broad. So there's certainly room for interpretation in there. So it happens from time to time that the local committee's interpretation or sort of interpretation of the standards and the facts in a case differs from that of this body.
Fair enough.
And
Thanks.
to be clear, we can support an awning, solution, but we do want some revisions to it related to the signage and the exact style, or revisions to the storefronts to incorporate the signage you want, if that is illuminated.
Surely, I understand that. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Then Mr. Musson, please call roll.
And so this is for the case 26-006 for the signage. Motion to table, Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Director Mersman. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Sandberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trot.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously. We still have case 26-007.
Is there a motion to table the complementing case 26007?
I'll make a motion to table.
We have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberg. Any further discussion? No. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberg,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trot.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay. So your tables or your applicant or application's been tabled. Please reach out to staff and they can walk through the options that we just discussed to help get to a solution that you're happy with, and so are we.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll then move on to our next applicant located at 6229 St. Clair Avenue, Pixel Planet Renovations.
Hello, my name is Eric Anderley. I am one of the co-owners of Pixel Planet. Are you able to go to the next slide? Sorry. We're at the corner of St. Clair and 63rd. It's the old St. Clair Savings and Loan Building. Our business is a full-service video production company, and the other tenants are all film and video related. And since we moved in, we've kind of formed the film and video hub in Cleveland. So if a project is coming to the city and they're going to take advantage of the tax credit, they're going to come through our doors. And that's kind of the reason we're today we're proposing mostly some security related changes. If you don't mind going to the next one. This is our building. We're focusing today on the St. Clair side, so the left image here. Go to the next one, please. So this is the existing, I guess, front St. Clair side. The top image is from Google Maps. I'm not sure the date on that. And then the bottom one is pretty recent, obviously before the snowfall. And then if you go to the next one, it's the same image with some notes on top. Okay, so we have two sets of changes. The first one is related to the wood trim and some of the masonry trim, as well as the doors that I have marked on the left here. So the door on the far left has been non-functioning since we moved in, and then the one in the middle has been shattered once before. So we're looking to put in a more secure option. And then the wood trim, kind of throughout, is peeling. There's small remnants of paint left over, some kind of white or beige perhaps, and then some of the masonry brick you can see is kind of cracking and peeling. You go to another one, please. So for the wood trim, once again, it kind of looks like it was beige or off-white, so we're proposing an off-white kind of rehab of the trim throughout the front here, and then replacing, repainting, excuse me, the black masonry paint for the masonry sections. And then for the glass doors, we're proposing to replace with steel and then paint, I guess, black to be the most complementary color. And I have a mock-up of that. So it's kind of crude, but just to give you a sense of what we're suggesting to replace and repaint. And then if you can go to the next image, please. Oh, okay. This is the door specifics. And then keep going. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this one is for the window film itself. We're proposing a one-way window film. Something kind of has a cohesive look. We're all modern tech-focused companies inside. So on the next image, you'll see a mock-up of that. And let's see. Yeah, one-way window film for privacy. We met with, well, I guess we'll get to the design review comments later. Next image. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's from the Google Map view. I didn't mock in the wood trim or the doors, but that's a sense of the windows for the front. And I believe the next one is the cut sheet for the window wraps. Window film, excuse me. And yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We will then move on to the Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Ariel Washington, Neighborhood City Planner, is available, so I'll let her give the summary.
Good morning, everyone. Do you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. The comments from the committee were that the film, which is vinyl, they suggested that should be on the inside of the window, and to consider removing the paint from the transom windows that are not above the drop ceiling, and to consider using a transparent film with less than 100% opacity. And the last comment was to provide door type and details, cut sheet specifications, but that is provided to you today. That was not available at the presentation. And we gave a possible reference for said window films or coverings. And that is all.
All right, thank you for those recommendations. We'll then move on to Landmark Commission, or Landmark staff recommendations.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. And just for some clarity, this went to the committee that Ariel's representing. There's some internal routing issues, so they went through Planning's Design Review Advisory Committee, their committee instead of our committee. But instead of taking them back through our entire design review process, we just utilized Planning's Design Review feedback. So that's why Ariel's here representing her committee today.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
So, staff certainly appreciates the security issues with the type of business you're operating. We do have some concerns and issues with the use of the solid steel doors. I think, there are ways to achieve security, using a steel door and plexiglass or something that still gives you a good level of security, but still maintains that historic appearance. We think that the storefronts could probably be a more complementary color, either something that is close to the stone or a darker, more historically appropriate color than the Olympus white. Feels a bit bright and bold, and I think will get dirty rather quickly. And just I think you'd be better off going with a darker tone and something a little warmer. Also, I guess we have concerns about covering all the windows. As far as the zoning is concerned, zoning is considering the proposed window coverings to be signage, since the imagery is closely related to the logo, at least the logo that the zoning folks found online for your business. They calculate 25%, which is the allowable area of coverage, to be 82 square feet. The applicant, at least at time of review by zoning, was proposing covering 100% of the window coverage. So they would need a 75% reduction to meet that code, which is fairly significant. I think that there's an opportunity here to, look at potentially translucent window coverages. There's a display window system. You can see in that storefront on the left that, there's a door behind a display system. So, if there's an opportunity to make that secure, essentially have a display area and then your security perimeters behind that, that might be an option. Or looking at more translucent vinyl options, and then, maybe interior security systems might be a more appropriate option. We don't want to see vinyl stuck on the outside of these windows, certainly, because there's, they get scratched, it gets burnt, it can be scraped away. And one of the challenges with trying to do a pattern and then installing it, and I believe the applicant mentioned it was one way. I'm not sure if that means perforated or what, but you can't print on the sticky side of the vinyl, so you can't have an image like this installed from the inside. You kind of have to use blocks of cut vinyl for interior applications, which kind of complicates things. So, staff would, I think, recommend a reduction in the window surface coverage, and then just exploring alternate options that provide security, but also maintain the historic appearance of the window systems.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Then we'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. I guess I'll start us off. I appreciate everything that this organization does, and I really like that you've created this coalition in this area of the city. I do understand and respect the need to upgrade security for the building, but do agree with many, if not all, of the comments by staff that I think the solid steel doors, we'll start there, are really troubling, for lack of a better word. I don't know another word right now for me. I do wonder, did you explore alternate options? It feels very institutional and very not appropriate for the building, but there are solutions like, Mr. Musson described that you can have a more secure door than a wood, but use laminated glazing or other types of security glazing to provide that security that you would like used on banks. I'll say that. Did you explore any of those options?
We do not. We have solid steel on the rear of the building, so we just wanted to match that, actually.
Although I appreciate you're trying to match what's on the building, I would encourage you to match what's on your front doors style wise versus the back doors, and incorporate security glazing in the style door versus fully steel door. I think it would just have a better look and feel, and for the overall facade itself. I do agree, and that was going to be one of my questions about the perforated vinyl, because typically with the one-way vinyl, like you see on the buses, it's solid during the day, but in the evening you then see into the bus or the storefront. So I just wonder if it's actually going to achieve what you would like. Because of that, and also the installation, I agree, it should be on the inside of the storefront so that it maintains it for you and, you know, doesn't get damaged, holds up better to this daylight, all of that. But it doesn't feel like the perforated, in my experience, would work. Does your installer have a different, I'm sorry, did you include the material that you're using for the vinyl?
I might not have listed the material. The choice to go to one way was just to appease the design review. Our original idea was opaque. So I understand the concerns. Just trying to do a middle ground with that choice.
Sure. I mean, I could support a solid vinyl on the interior, almost at a wainscot approach, meaning a lower height, or something that you could, is more of a band to provide that solid, cut of the view shed in, for the security reasons, but still allow for the storefront, to be, let's say, 40. If you looked at it all transom down to the, sill, like at least like 50%, or what did you say, 25% is allowed?
Yes, code allows 25% coverage.
I could support a higher amount, but probably not over 50% of it, so that you do have that ability to see that there is activity in these storefronts and not, closing everything off, but provides you that security and that maintenance, longevity to that material. What else did you say? And then the storefront colors, I do appreciate that you're trying to match the colors there, but I would agree that a warmer buff, color to still be in that, provide that, sort of high contrast that you probably appreciate, but blend better with the surrounding sandstone, I'm assuming surrounds, around the openings and at the sills. So, I mean, overall, I'm in support of the direction you're going, but I do have issues with the door style, the vinyl coverage and material, since I don't think it's going to align with what we're trying to do here. And then, I think the color painting it is appreciated, just the color might need to be tweaked a little bit. Other questions and comments from the commission? Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I appreciate the work and the thought that's going into this. I would agree with staff and the chair that the trim needs to be a more soothing, natural color, maybe picking up on the sandstone or a buff. I have a question. I think I know the answer, but I just want clarification. The vinyl applique to the windows, is there any reflective quality to it or no?
The one I'm proposing is matte, but it sounds like we're headed towards a frosted 50%, so it could still be matte, whatever is approved.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Have you considered doing like an interior, kind of like a blind, insulation where you put in blinds, maybe they can be lowered from the top and that way you can get more natural light, but you don't have people looking in, and that would probably give you maximum opacity if you did some sort of a interior blind system. I was wondering if you had considered anything like that.
Sorry, Ms. Anderson, I didn't mean to cut you up. They could also be printed
And
and have signage and wouldn't fall into the signage.
Okay.
A good pattern. Would they?
I think if they had a pattern on them, they'd be fine. If there was text on them, then I think that would trigger the signage code.
Just to answer the first question, the idea of blinds was something we considered, kind of as maybe a fallback to having something with some branding to it. But the idea of printing something like an abstract design on the blinds, we hadn't thought of that. No.
Okay. And lastly, I'm really uncomfortable with the solid metal doors. And I understand the issue with break-ins and whatnot all too well. I've gone to Cleveland Bagel. I think they had their full window door broken. Provisions had their full window door broken. I understand that. I'm just not comfortable. This just seems like such a barrier. Kind of looks like a vault with a full metal door. And the wood door is just enchanting. I totally love it. I don't know if there's a Lexion or special glass that can be installed that would be more resilient if somebody tried to smash it. And I don't know if there's like a security shutters or security blinds that can be put on without being too obtrusive. I just was thinking it'd be good to explore some alternatives to those metal doors, because they're just not inviting. They kind of reinforce probably a message that we don't want enforced. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Other questions and comments?
Hi, my name is Cordelia Heaney. I'm the Assistant Director at St. Clair Superior Development Corporation. We've been working with Pixel Planet on this project as part of a storefront and signage grant program that we've launched, where we work with the business to ensure that it's a design that we feel is harmonious with the neighborhood and, with both the usability for the business and also the perspective of passersby and the community as a whole. I wanted to share that we have been in support of this design and involved with the project with Pixel Planet. The doors have already been ordered, and I will say some of the doors, especially if you look at the ones on the right, are already, older doors that were, installed at a later date and aren't historically, significant. And just to highlight, while I agree with you, any business that has its doors broken into, is a very expensive issue for businesses. Pixel Planet is holding a lot of very expensive, sometimes bespoke film equipment that's difficult to replace and very expensive. And so, the security for the business is paramount. And they are already, as Eric mentioned on the left-hand image, the top windows are already, painted over, and it's basically impossible to get the paint off. And, people already aren't able to see into the space. And so our goal, in this project is to make it more beautiful and more appealing to people walking by while still maintaining the safety and security for the folks working inside Pixel Planet. So, while I understand, some of the concerns around the doors, I think, that they have not been functional, and there is a higher need for security than in some other businesses.
Thank you for that feedback. We do appreciate it. I think we are trying to, and appreciate everything that everyone has done related to this project. But do want to make sure the alterations are aligned with what is appropriate per the interior standards, but does provide that security that they need. But we appreciate all that feedback. It's very helpful. Other questions and comments from the commission? Closure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's unfortunate that these doors are already on order without having gone through the full historic design review process. I understand that this sort of got into the wrong channel to begin with, which is why this discussion may be a little bit delayed. But, you know, I think that the comments that we're making are not in alignment with what's being proposed, both from the doors and the application of the graphics on the windows, sort of 100% of those of the windows being storefront windows being covered. What that ultimately portrays is more of a fortress than it is a contributing member of the sort of streetscape. So being able to see some level of activity behind, you know, makes it a much more contributing member to the streetscape and to the public, you know, public way. So the recommendation by the chair to one, either reduce the full 100% coverage to something that's more of a band. You know, the signage code mentioned 25% coverage as sort of the maximum, but I think we would be willing to grant a variance for coverage that was maybe greater than that, but we would have to, you know, to see a revised proposal for that. So I think I just wanted to just make that sort of just put that out there. I think when it comes to the color, I'm in agreement with the paint color. And I would recommend working with staff to confirm what the appropriate color would be. One option might be, you know, repaint it the same color, the trim the same color that it is today. By as sort of recommendations, I do have a question about the scope for the painting. So is the intent that it's only the ground floor window trim being painted and nothing on the second floor?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there an expectation or intent at some point to repaint the second floor windows? I don't know if Pixel Plus, if you own the building outright or if there's a landlord, but I think that just wanted to make sure that, you know, if we're granting approval for a color here, that just want to make sure that we understand the full context of kind of what potential future plans might be.
Sure. We do own the building. And right now we're just focusing on the windows I highlighted, but the other windows or other wood trim on the first floor and second floor do have the same issues. So over time, that would be a goal.
Okay. Great. So we may make a recommendation here in order to help sort of facilitate future work potentially on that side of things. I thank you. So thank you for that. I do have a question about building signage, for Pixel Plus, or your business itself. Is there an intent to have any building signage applied?
No, there was not.
Okay, gotcha. I think those are my questions and comments for now. So thank you.
Am I able to add one follow-up to that response?
Yes, please go ahead.
I was just going to say to the idea about our signage. Oh yeah, we're not like a walk-in. It's by appointment only. So we just didn't feel a need to put the tenants or ourselves as signage.
No, that's understandable. Just clarifying. So that's understandable and not a requirement at all. Okay, other questions and comments from the commission? Trying to get us to move forward here, how we can move forward. I see two paths. Obviously, we can move forward with trying to create some conditions related to the approval of what would be, you know, approvable, or either improved having that in totality or portions of it, or we table it to allow some, you know, rework. I think the major thing that I've heard universally across the commission was the doors and the door material. And I understand they've been ordered, but we can't be always pressured into, asking for forgiveness for not being compliant, to put it bluntly. That, we want to work with you to provide the security you need, but we need to make sure that it's in compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards. So we're willing to work with you on the style and material to do that. But currently, I personally can't approve the material for those doors at this point. Related to the color, I think you're close. I think it's just a slight, tweak in the color to make it a little bit warmer and not so stark on the building to work closer to the existing material. So we can definitely, I could approve that with the final color being, defined or agreed upon with staff. Related to the window covering, it's hard for me to approve in the concept. I can be on board with having an opaque material there, but it does not sound like the material and the approach is really going to be able to be achieved. And or the amount of coverage, I think, should be reduced so that it provides the security that you need, but does allow some visibility into the storefront. And typically that's to like a 7-foot height or a 50%. I think that's where a little bit of working with staff would allow us to achieve your goal in providing that security, which we understand is a requirement, but still meets the spirit of our requirements. So, go ahead.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. This is Terry Hamilton Brown with St. Clair Superior Development Corporation. And as has been stated, we did not start with landmarks. We didn't know that the building was designated. And Eric, if it's okay with you, I would suggest we spend a bit more time with the landmark staff before we ask the commission to vote, but that is your decision.
That sounds good to me, Terry.
So, Madam, go ahead.
We appreciate that, Ms. Brown. That was the direction that we were going, was to, I think it would be in everyone's best interest if you agree, if we could table you, work with staff on these details, because I do truly believe that they're fairly minor and we could get there fairly quickly. So am I correct to interpret that we have your permission to table you, Mr. Anderly?
Yes.
Okay. Because I do think some conversations with staff would really benefit this greatly. Okay, so with your permission, I would ask if somebody or someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to table.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Hey, Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay. So I think Mr. Musson said it. We apologize if there was some confusion at the start of this, but I think you're really close. We look forward to you talking to staff and look forward to seeing you again here in the near future to, approve your projects.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I did want to call back one thing. It was not my intention to muscle anyone because we ordered the doors. That was just a mistake on our end.
Nope, thank you. We appreciate that. We're a little sensitive just having a few, asking for forgiveness, applications all in one meeting. So we appreciate that. And staff will reach out to staff offline, and we look forward to seeing you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll then move on to our last applicant, located at 2504-2502 Garden Avenue, Row on Garden. New construction.
Madam Chair, I need to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Brandt.
Hi, thank you. It's been a while. I think you've seen this project before, but it's gone through some changes and iterations, and happy to be back and show you where we're at. I believe this is we've gone through all our approvals with the design boards, and this is our last stop. So we're happy to be here. You can go to the next slide, please. Just to refresh our project, we are doing, this is the last in a phase of projects in this neighborhood with the developer Costa Almarutis, who's also on the call here. We did lofts on Pearl on the corner of Garden and Pearl, the Kearns building further north renovated, and the flats on Pearl north of that is a new construction apartment unit. Starting construction hopefully this fall. So what we are proposing is for the Rowan Garden is 2 buildings that are identical. They each have, they're 3-story with a total of 9 apartment units each. And we're looking at this piece as sort of a stepping down in scale from the commercial buildings on Pearl Road, stepping down to the single family residential scale project, existing homes further down on Garden Avenue and at the end of the street there. Next slide, please. So this is a typical floor plan of each of the buildings. This happens to be the first floor where you can see, we've got an entry porch, entry landing, ramp and stairs. In the back, we do have decks on all 3 floors, but 3 nice sized units. Next floor. The next photos, please. Sorry. This is the front elevation and rear elevation showing the 2 buildings together. And again, you can see where we're starting to talk about, stepping down in that scale of having some of the more single family residential elements with the gable, the siding, the more pedestrian scale windows and door. Next slide, please. This shows a more close-up version view of a single building with the front elevation. So we'll be using brick hardy board siding on the front. We have both hardy board siding and hardy board panels, asphalt shingles, and a metal canopy. And then on the sides and rear will be vinyl siding and brick. And some of the panel detail that we have here is a bit of a nod to what we're doing on the Flats on Pearl project as well. So it's kind of keeping this as part of a comprehensive development that it looks like it belongs together. But as I said, we are keeping it much more residential in scale. If you can go to the next slide, please. This shows a bit more of our materials and our color palette. So we'll be using the darker hardy pad panel, and then each of our gabled bays will have a different color siding, again, to kind of break up that massing and make it certainly more interesting. I think it just really helps with the scale and makes it, we really like the color pattern here. And the brick will be all the same brick throughout both buildings. Next slide, please. This was just a detail of that panel that somebody from the design board had asked for, just showing where we have our score lines, which is pretty much everywhere shown. And then on the bottom, we have, we use an H channel, so it's a seamless panel, but it will, so you want a clarification of what that paneling looks like. Next slide, please. So this is a model view again, just showing it in relation to the taller commercial buildings, the 2 that are existing and the 1 that's proposed, soon to be built. So you can see where we're stepping down the scale and creating that rhythm with those gables. Next slide, I think, shows the other direction. Can we see the next slide, please? There we go. So that shows that looking down the other direction, down Garden Avenue. And you can see the entries there that I think look really nice and keep it very residential feeling. Next slide, please. Again, this is looking up Garden Avenue again. Next slide, please. This is showing the rear. And then the next slide, I think, shows everything. An aerial view. Oh, sorry, exterior lighting, my mistake. So we will have some uplighting on the two front gables and then at the entry porch, and then on the back balconies as well. We'll have some lighting there. Next slide. And then this is just overall, again, site lighting. We will have some in front. The parking and the other lighting is really part of the other Flats on Pro project, but we're showing this just as a point of reference for you. And then I think next slide might just have some landscaping. Again, yeah, so we'll have some landscaping, you know, again, at the entries and in that little area by our packaging room on the front, and then in the back as well between the parking and the building. And is there another slide? There we go. So this just shows just an overall view of the building within the neighborhood. So you can see the single family homes at the end of the street. You're gonna have that very similar. There's one that has almost the same proportion of front gate with these there. I think that's the last one.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Before we move on to our comments, we'll ask for the local design advisory committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project we've seen beginning in 2023. Was the first time it's been introduced with a few demolitions of the existing homes. And so the latest iteration of this, we went to the Greater Cuyahoga Valley Historic Design Review Advisory Committee in August 5th, 2025. At that point, there was a lot of discussion about accessibility, where the ramp would be on the rear or the front. Discussion about the window sizes on the front in relation to the stair hall and kind of the configuration on the interior of the building. Wanting to see more detail on the site plan with like species, landscaping, more details on the front windows, question on ADA compliance of where ramps would be needed on the homes, on the buildings, and to really look at the existing multifamily buildings in the district, since this transitioned from originally, we first saw this as townhomes and now it's multifamily. So to kind of look at more context. So that was tabled at that point in August. They did return on August 19th, 2025 with a few revisions. And so at that point, there was a lot of discussion on the evolution of the building, and noting that it does feel residential compared to the more commercial buildings along Pearl, and noted the kind of wanting to see more of detail provided, as our applicant noted, seeing the scoring on the stair towers, having more information on the vertical and horizontal details, any kind of materials provided, just wanting to see more details on those, and a lot of discussion on how it kind of fits with the homes, with having a canopy and then also a shed roof on another part of the kind of bump outs on the first floor, and also just detail on the level changes. And since I believe it was noted that it's a slight slope, and so kind of final details on how the buildings will be arranged just as constructed. So at that point, there's a lot of discussion. They did recommend the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with conditions, just noting some of their issues to resolve. And so conditions to provide details on the siding, joints and stair tower, front porches to be deeper with the recessed entry doors, ADA conditions finalized in the plans, and then enlarged detail provided for the site and landscaping. And so, yeah, that was the last review from the committee. We did not take it back. The applicant did make changes. And so now we're here at Landmarks.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that feedback. And then Landmark staff recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Jessica mentioned, we've seen this project a number of times. It's part of a larger sort of campus that Jill has been working with Costa, the owner, on. This commission approved parts of the Lofts on Pearl project back in 2022. That's now completed, I understand. This committee approved the Flats on Pearl project March 14th, 2025. I believe the demolition has occurred, but the project has not started to come out of the ground yet. And then the Kearns building, which is at the corner, was approved June 12th, 2025. And I'm not sure if that one's started or not. That's a rehab. But this is sort of the fourth building in this little campus that's sort of being constructed and rehabilitated. You guys also, as Jessica mentioned, approved demolitions of the existing houses on Garden Avenue in 2024, 2025. Yeah, this came to local design review schematically twice, and then for final review 3 different times. The last few times this body has seen the project was for schematic review at the end of 2024, then final review March 14th, 2025, and then April 10th, 2025. We've given it a new case number, which is 26-009. It was previously case 23-112. Basically just because of the change from townhouses to apartments, and then so much time has passed that it's, essentially a different project from when it started. So we felt that a new case number and just sort of refreshing the discussion was a good idea. I'm happy to give some summaries of the previous meetings to refresh everyone's memory, but I don't want to spend the entire rest of the meeting talking myself. So I don't know if the chair would like the summary, or just if you guys want to get into the discussion yourselves.
I personally feel like I have a good handle of the discussions before, but if anyone on the commission would like a recap. No, we're good. I think we're good.
All right.
Okay. Well, then we will open up the floor of the commission for questions and comments. Mr. Lozier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so this has been quite the evolution of project, and I think the one slide that we had up showing sort of that progression over time is helpful, and I want to just thank the applicant and the building owner, the owner again, on their commitment to this continued sort of progress. And I think this is, from my perspective, the best iteration yet. So thank you for the continued sort of, push on moving this forward. I do have a question. So when it comes to the hardy board on the front, and you mentioned that it'll transition to vinyl siding, where does that transition happen on the end units?
Let's see, I believe it happens. We may be switching it back. You know what, that's a good question. Now I'm looking at it. I think we had it. Sorry, it's changed a number of times. Lino, do you recall the answer to that question?
I think the facades roll over into the sides, and then we continue with vinyl.
I'm sorry, Costa, can you repeat that?
The facades roll over for a few inches into the sides, and then we continue with vinyl.
Okay, so we have a corner board here where we make the switch.
And then the vinyl goes all the way around the sides to the back.
I think that's correct. So I think we have a corner board here where we make that transition.
Thank you for the clarification there. If I might make a recommendation, it would be for at least the first portion, as you turn the corner, between sort of the flat portion, from the corner to the sort of the middle gable. If we're looking at the sort of the green end unit here, and have the hardy board die into that sort of protrusion. Yeah, that I think, at least from my perspective, would be preferred. I think especially on this particular unit, maybe not so much on the units that are directly, facing one another, but I'll defer to my colleagues on what their thoughts are there.
That is something that we went back and forth on, and that's why I kind of hesitated, because I had to remember what the final answer was.
Gotcha. No, thank you. I mean, overall, I think this is a pretty nice composition. The one consideration might be the brightness of the sort of the brightest white volume. And again, I know it's really difficult to tell from renderings and things like that. But it's almost like someone took a highlighter and, it really sort of stands out more than it does sort of blending with the larger sort of context. So you might want to consider looking at the color of that particular unit. I think that the changes in colors are nice. When looking back at some of the previous studies where it's all one color, I think it helps to break up things a little bit more and make it feel it helps to break the mass of the buildings down a little bit more into more sort of residential, individual residential, portions. But other than that, I think I think this is a nice presentation, and I think it's come a long way since we first saw this. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you,
in
Ms.
response to the color, we tried a bunch of different combinations, and I think our concern was not having it look too dark. I think some of the other versions that you had seen previously just kind of felt dark and heavy. So we like that lighter color, but we could certainly take a look at it again.
All right. Thank you. Other questions and comments? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know there was discussion in some of the earlier meetings regarding the zoning there and the homes that were demolished were single family and two family, and how the massing and the apartments were appropriate for West 25th, but farther back. And I have to acknowledge that I think it would be very difficult to financially to sell single family or townhouses. So, I acknowledge the necessity of this proposal the way it is. And I appreciate that the design does have a more residential townhouse feel. I like the way it kind of is not flush with, it steps back and comes forward. And I like the gables. So there are a lot of things I like about it. I would prefer that the entrance would have maybe a shed roof, or even to reintroduce that peaked roof like you have on those gables, reintroduce the gable there. I think that what you have is too commercial looking, and again, we're really achieving a residential feel here, and I think that would be good here. I see that it looks like the windows are one pane, and I think with the language of the street, a double pane window would be appropriate. The other issue I have with those single pane windows is I think they crank out and a lot of water gets in when it rains. Yeah, it's easier to get water into the interior of the suite, and certainly that's not something you want to create repairs down the line. My concern with the colors is especially the bump outs, the bays, you know, they're standing proud, which is nice, but the color choice of that charcoal pulls them back. I think it causes visual confusion. And between the dark roof and so many dark colors on the front of the building, it has sort of I hate to use the word grim, but that's, and I see that a lot. It just seems to be a trend. I think it's out there a lot, and it's popular, but as just a lay person, I'm not an architect, as a lay person seeing all these, dark kind of brooding colors is, I don't know whether it's a sign of our times and the, insecurities that people are feeling around just what's going on in the world, but it's not welcoming, it's not warm, and I think that needs to be revisited. I think those are basically my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Musson?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I can just jump in since you mentioned the zoning. We did get some sort of preliminary feedback from the zoning section over in city planning. They can do a formal zoning review once the applicant applies for the PRJ through a new permit portal. But the current, as it stands now, the feedback from zoning says there'll be a split zoning issue if the lots are consolidated. The more restrictive zoning district, which is the 2FB1, would take precedence. Numerous variances would be needed as such, having more than 2 dwelling units per parcel, exceeding max gross floor area, not meeting landscaping and screening transition strip requirements. Parking stalls are required to have wheel stops or be within a curbed area. So that's just kind of to keep in mind moving forward. Sounds like there may be some zoning issues that would require additional bodies to grant approvals or variances.
Okay, thank you. And are we able to, we can't grant variances, but we can support variances?
Correct, yes, you can grant variances to the sign code, but you can support variances to other areas of the code.
Okay. Excellent. All right, well, I will make my comments now. I appreciate the color that you've incorporated into this. I'm surprised, Ms. Anderson, didn't, comments that, it's not all dark and, monolithic. So I appreciate having some color here. I think Mr. Lozier had mentioned, I think it's, you've done a good balance of trying to respect the spirit of the residential that is adjacent, but really, working within the size of the scale of the buildings that you have. So I think it is a good intermediary between the commercial buildings on Pearl and the residential that is next to it. I can support the variances that would be required because of it, because I do think it would be an awkward zone for single family homes because of all of the other multifamily that is right there, and how this is a development. I do agree with Mr. Lozier's comments that, I would require that the hardy is used on the entire front gable elements and wrap back to the side gables so that there is a clear element, of transition, an interior corner of transition versus just, sort of the front painted, area. Since you do have that opportunity on all 4 sides. I can go either way on the entry roof at the entrances. It is more of a commercial building, so it doesn't bother me that it has the flat canopy. But I think a shed canopy could also be appropriate, but I don't feel like that one's not a requirement. It could be nice to explore that, as you had mentioned. And then I just appreciate the owner's persistence to try to get this project done, in this area, because I think the area is really ripe to have, this new housing stock in this area. So I just, looking at the whole sort of history of this project and the persistence of trying to make sure something is built here. Only minor thing, and this is just a personal preference, I would encourage you to study the size of the windows in your stair towers. They feel oversized. Because there were muttons in those windows, correct? You go to the
There are,
rendering.
yes.
Yeah, so it looks like you were trying to imply a double hung, is that correct? Or was it
No.
okay. Okay.
We were just matching the proportion and just reducing the scale.
So having it's not a 2/2, but it's like a 2 square versus a 4 square in the top of these stair towers may be something I personally would encourage you to, or I personally would encourage you to explore to see if it just balances out. It feels a little tight. That window feels a little bit large in that, in that gable. But that's my personal opinion, not a requirement. But overall, I appreciate and support the project. The colors in the dark versus light, I think that, it could go either way. I don't find it objectionable on this proposal. But I do see the spirit of what you're saying also is just where the dark is versus the light. So those are my comments. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, and I'll try to capture all of the thoughts. So I make a motion to approve as presented with the requirement to wrap the hardy board around the corners on the end units so that it extends to the side gables, to not a requirement, but a consideration to study the windows, window sizes on the protruding stair elements, the consideration of looking at the color palette of the as presented, working with staff on finalizing, what that direction is.
Support for variances as zoning variances as required?
Support for zoning variances as required. Is that it?
All I got.
Did you get that all down?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion. Do we have a second? The third call. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Then the motion fails.
Yeah, if there's no second, then the motion fails and we need another motion.
Okay, then the motion failed. Could someone put forward an alternate motion?
May I address some of the questions and comments, and perhaps that would help with the motion?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so just a couple of the comments regarding the canopy. We did look at a shed roof canopy and felt that it really got lost. If you can go to one of the front model views, please. One more. Next slide. There we go. Let's see if we could, I think we might have one at the street level. Let's go two more views. And the next one. There you can kind of, well, I guess, sorry, go back one. My apologies. There you go. So I think you can see where we had, if we had a shed roof, that entry really gets lost. We felt that having that canopy roof projecting a little further forward and having the columns there and more glass at the windows really made that entry stand out compared to, you can see the package room bump out there with a shed roof. It really got muddled, and we felt that having that canopy and that projecting a little further really made the entry read as entry. So we did do that study. Regarding the windows at the stair towers, we felt that having either single windows that are larger or a single window narrower, as you suggested, almost looked too small. And we liked having the pattern of double windows on the gable and single windows on the brick pad. And we felt that that had a really nice rhythm to it. I think those were the questions. As far as the colors, you know, we can certainly take another look at it. I personally like them, and I don't think it reads too dark. You know, I don't know if it's the panel, the dark bronze that's too dark. Maybe if that lightened up, the other ones would feel more balanced. We could certainly consider that. But we thought it was cozy and matched some of the residential, some of the colors that are either on the street now or were there previously. So that was our thought on that one. And then one was just a question I wanted to throw out. How would the board feel if it was all vinyl siding on the project? So we still had the transition between wider siding and narrower siding. Any thoughts on that?
My personal opinion is I would encourage you to stay with what you have because it is aligned with the Secretary of Interior standards. And vinyl siding is not the typically desired for, you know, projects in their entirety, basically. So I think what you've proposed is a good compromise of meeting the standards, but, you know, we're trying to, you know, allow for flexibility on the sides and rears to vinyl.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to throw that out there.
And just to clarify, the only window that I was talking about for your stair towers is just the top one, you know, within the gable.
Okay.
You know, where more of a square, you know, versus rectangular window might give a little bit more breadth to it. It was the only comment that I have. It feels a little large there, you know, especially being sort of in the peak of the gable.
Okay, I'm
Like I
sorry.
said, that's okay. I appreciate the feedback also, and that you've looked at it. That was just to clarify because I didn't say it correctly, I guess, before. So thank you for those clarifications. We did have the motion fail, so we do need another motion. We have 2 members online, 2 in the room that are able to make motions. So I'd ask for an alternate motion to be put forward. Then, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, would it be helpful to, I guess, reiterate the previous motion and see if there were specific issues that people had with elements of it that might, spark some conversation? And Chris, feel free to correct me if my shorthand isn't as accurate. It was a motion to approve with the condition that the hardy wrap siding comes, or on the end units, extends to the side gables, and recommendation to study the window sizes of the stair elements, and recommendation to study the color palettes with final color selections being reviewed and approved by staff, and support for the zoning variances as required.
And to clarify, it was just the stair tower top window.
The top window, yeah. So,
So I would ask Ms. Williams, Mr. Trosik, Ms. Anderson, what elements of those you are have objections to, so we can discuss them and develop an appropriate way to move forward. Ms. Anderson?
You know, I understand that, you know, designers, architects are designing in this color palette, and I see it everywhere. We are in a historic district, and I know I've brought this up on this project before. You know, there is a historic color palette, there's a century of color. I mean, this information is out there. And it needs to be incorporated. And as far as the double hung windows, I think without that, this is, we're introducing something into an area that is not original. It's, you know, we're making a concession here, but having that consistency with the existing buildings, I think is necessary. So, you know, looking at the colors, we looked at it and we keep getting what I think is still contemporary but inappropriate color choices. So I'd probably be willing to concede on the overhang for the entrance. But as those other two issues, I'm not.
So do you feel comfortable with the final colors being finalized with staff? Or do you feel it has to come back here? That was part of one of the motion conditions, was that the final colors be finalized.
And be consistent with the historic color palette as opposed to a contemporary color palette, which I understand people are kind of used to seeing and accepting. As for a historic district, I don't feel it's appropriate.
If I may comment on the colors, ma'am, if you go back to, yes. So these colors that we have selected are in keeping with, you know, standard vinyl siding colors, but we also did cross-check this with Sherwin-Williams. They have a line of historic colors. And so we did make sure that these do match paint colors within the historic Sherwin-Williams color palette. And if it would help, we can add those colors to our palette so that you know which historic number we're referencing. Would that? And again, we can look at doing lighter colors or different, but I know this conversation about color palette has come up before. And so we specifically went back and looked at historic colors. So we can provide that information for you if that's helpful when we present our final color selection.
Would a change in the brick tone help satisfy your concerns about colors, or is it
The brick tone may help, but yes, those dark bronze and black is part of the color palette. But they were primarily used as trim, like trim around a window. They were not dominant colors in the historic color palette. So it's not that the color application, that they don't use those colors. Yes, they did. It's the application that I object to.
Just to be clear, the application primarily of the dark bronze that's used on the stair tower and the surrounds of the windows that you're having objection to. It's not the colors of the bump out or the projection gables of the blue, the green, the tan, the white. You're not objecting to that. It's just really the one dark bronze color.
Yeah, there's too much use of that bronze in. And again, that was a trim color. That's accepted as a trim color, but not as a dominant color
So
color.
if we were able to clarify the condition that, that the colors be revisited so they're consistent with the historic palette, primarily focusing on the dark bronze, color and the final colors to be approved by staff, would that be acceptable?
I still think the windows. That's a step in the right direction. I still find the windows objectionable.
And the alternate, because they are vinyl windows, is that correct? Or fiberglass? Fiberglass.
I think her objection is they're not double hung, they're casement windows. That's what I have in my notes.
Correct.
Is it the color and the configuration or just the color? Or the configuration?
Configuration.
Okay. So if we added a note to review the window styles to explore double hung versions.
I might add that they were not casements in some of the earlier iterations.
Yes, the project has evolved and we felt that having the casement was appropriate for this type of building. As you point out, it is a commercial building. We are trying to step down and make a transition from the commercial buildings on the corner to the residential. So we're not going to have all residential elements here. It's a transition piece. So we feel that this is appropriate. And keep in mind, we're transitioning from the building on the corner, and that's kind of why we picked that darker bronze color, was matching what we're doing the flats on Pearl. We're certainly able to reconsider that color, and thank you for clarifying that the siding colors are acceptable. So we can take another look at that darker color, that dark bronze color. But I do feel that the windows are appropriate for this type of building personally. I don't know how much of a sticking point that is for the other board members.
Anything else, Ms. Anderson, or should I see what Mr. Trosek has to say? Anything else on yours, or should I move on to Mr. Trosek? I don't want to shortchange. Okay, Mr. Trosek, your feedback or the items, clarification of the items that you object to of the motion that was previously given?
Well, I was going to ask if it would be appropriate at this time for me to make a motion as opposed to going through the other members here before we do that.
You could always, yes, be appropriate unless Ms. Williams, there's something that you would like to state before Mr. Trosek, makes a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My concern was primarily with the colors, and again, what the objections were. With the previous motion, we're talking about all conditions, right? Not recommendations, but conditions, the one that failed initially. But a primary condition being, even now, it seems in the discussion, that the applicant work directly with staff members to address the concerns. Are we in agreement that the applicant should continue to work? Okay, and so then if it's the trim color primarily that Ms. Anderson or other members find to be problematic, would it be appropriate to suggest that one of the conditions can be, or is this too specific and too detailed, should be choosing a different color for the trim on the window rather than the bronze color? Or is that something that is usually handled in those discussions with staff members, please? Just clarification.
Sure, no, good clarification. I think the more specific of the items that they're that we have issues with is best. So, and that's why I was clarifying if it was all colors or just the trim color. Ms. Anderson clarified is primarily the trim color.
I'm sorry, and maybe I misspoke. It's not the trim colors. The trim colors I don't have a problem with. It's the portions of the body.
So I'm sorry, I repeated the trim color from what Ms. Williams said. It's primarily the body color of the stair tower and the box bay window projections is what you are would like to get revisited.
specifically the metal panels, the Temple architectural products, the dark bronze color that's on the upper left corner, just to be.
Yes. Correct,
Okay.
Ms. Anderson.
All
Yes,
right.
okay,
Thank you,
just-
for the clarification then. And personally, I would think that this would also be something that could be worked out with staff if it's primarily addressing concerns about color. It's not with the design. There was another point about the top window, and this is, what was the term you said? This is in the stair tower?
Correct, and it was just a personal preference, as I said, to make the top window square potentially, or explore using a square window in proportions of the 2 light versus a rectangular window in the 4 light proportions.
A personal preference as opposed to a condition.
Correct, a recommendation, not a requirement.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Then I think I would be prepared to vote on another motion depending on what our colleagues would put forward, given those clarifications that you just shared.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Mr. Tarasik, would you like to go ahead then?
So if I understand correctly, I'm gonna rely on staff's note taking with with everything that's just been said. I'd like to reiterate the previous motion incorporating the requirement of revisiting the color on the stair tower, specifically the dark bronze color, with staff. The recommendation with respect to, I believe this is what Madam Chair, you mentioned, the top window, I believe, on the stair tower.
Correct.
A recommendation to review that with staff. And somebody help me with the issue with the window again, but make that a condition to review that with staff as well. So there would be the original motion as well as the 2 conditions of visiting the color and the windows with staff and the recommendation of revisiting that top window of the stair tower.
So I'll just reiterate what I've heard, if that's okay.
Please.
Is I've heard, I just want to make sure we're all clear, right? You know, that, a requirements to review the color, specifically the metal panel color that is used on the stair tower and the window projections, bay projections from the dark bronze to an alternate color, to wrap the hardy from the front elevations around the sides to dye into the side gables, to explore or requirement to review the type of windows that are used and explore double hung versus the casement, to explore the window proportions at the top of the stair tower, and then if we're reiterating the original, I'm assuming you're in support of all zoning variances for the project. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, so we have a motion with conditions. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Right, not seeing any. Mr. Mussin, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Mr. Tarasik,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously with 1 recusal.
All right, excellent. Well, congratulations, your project is passed. We look forward to seeing your project move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes our certificates of appropriateness. We'll now move on to the National Register of Historic Place nominations. For the Advent Evangelist Lutheran Church located 15309 Harvard Avenue.
Hi, Margaret. We have Margaret Land from Cleveland Restoration Society here to walk us through the National Register nomination of the Evangelical Lutheran Church.
Good morning, everybody. Yep, we are preparing the nomination to be reviewed at the state level in March. And I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with this church as it was a fairly recent Cleveland Landmark designation. But you can go ahead and start moving through the slides. It is located on Harvard Avenue in the Leesville neighborhood. Next slide, please. And the nomination is being submitted under both Criterion A from the pattern of history and also Criterion C for architecture, with the period of significance being 1965 at the construction of the building through the civil rights period 1976. Next slide. The church was organized in 1962 and first worshipped in what was formerly a carry-out beverage store located on the same lot where the church now stands. They did redesign the exterior of the building initially because there was concern from the neighborhood about the church reusing the building and about their ability or capacity to gain enough members to construct a new building. And we include this information in the nomination because it really reflects that kind of suburban neighborhood that Leesville and Lee Harvard were developing in. The community members really wanted something appropriate for their mid-century neighborhood. Next slide, please. So indeed, the church did get its required number of members. The nomination notes that it was considered an interracial congregation at the time it was formed, but white population was probably less than 1%. We have records of like 2 to 3 white members, and it was primarily a Black congregation with a Black minister, Reverend Youngblood, who was the first pastor at the church. There's a photo of him there breaking ground on April 11th, 1965. And they chose the recently established firm of Whitley Architects for the project. Next slide, please. I think most of you are aware of the legacy of the Whitley firm, formed by twin brothers James and William, and then later joined by urban planner Joyce Whitley. This building was their first ecclesiastical project and just one of a couple that the firm completed during that period of significance. Next slide, please. So it's a modern building that fits very nicely in the context of those mid-century suburban neighboring homes. 1 story. It has really lovely details with the wood screening on it, and also includes some Harlequin stained glass that is a yellow in color. It's very lovely, the interesting modern metal steeple, and really retains all of its architectural characteristics today. Next slide, please. Can see some interior images there of the worship space and the entrance hall leading in. Original historic light fixtures, the lovely blonde brick and the tile floor all remain. It's very well taken care of. Next slide, please. And just a few more exterior shots of the building. So the congregation was, very active with civic interests in the neighborhood. Also politically inviting speakers to come to educate the congregation on, who's running for office. Many of their members held positions either in politics or at director level organizations that were part of the civil rights movement, like the United Freedom Movement and the Urban League. So, we see the activity of the time period, but also the interests of the congregation reflecting that more move up mid-century suburban lifestyle and interest. And of course, then the architecture also complementing that. So this is the last of 6 churches that were funded through a National Park Service grant to be nominated into the National Register. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you for the presentation. We'll then move on to staff.
Yep, staff would recommend supporting the nomination before this goes to the Ohio Historic State Preservation Advisory Board, or OSHBAB, at their March 20th meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Lozier?
I'll start. Thank you, Ms. Land, for the thorough and really great presentation. I think this is the first sort of modern mid-century building that, since I've been on the commission, that's been nominated, and based on its architecture and its legacy and its it checks all the right boxes for me, and I'm excited to see this being nominated and look forward to supporting the nomination.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Lozier. Other questions or comments or feedback from the commission? I was stepped out of the room for a second, so I can't really give appropriate, feedback. So I'll ask the other commission members to please give a little bit more feedback. Stanberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in full support of this. I think it's a great application. I think the Cleveland Restoration Society is doing a great job nominating these churches. So I'm in full support.
Excellent. All right, Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am also in full support of this nomination, and I think it's, exciting to see that this is the first ecclesiastical project of Whitney and Whitney, which is an important architectural firm in our city. So I fully support this.
Thank you. Hearing fairly consistent support, would someone like to put forward a motion? Mr. Lozier? Oh, Ms. Anderson?
I move that we approve the nomination of this building.
Great. So you have a motion to nominate, is that good?
Supporting the nomination
Supporting
since it's
the
National Register.
Okay,
yeah.
so supporting the nomination. Okay, so we have a motion to support the nomination. Do we have a second?
Madam Chair,
I'll
I
second.
second.
Look at it, Ms. Williams.
Go ahead, Ms. Williams. You second?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do second the motion.
All right, thank you, Ms. Williams, or Dr. Williams. Any further discussion? All right, not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
All right, Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
Mr. Stanberry?
Yes.
Mr. Trasick?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously. Margaret, I'll let the state know this body's in support. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, you too. Congratulations. All right, then we will move on to our next portion, which is Design Review Advisory Committee appointments. There is one on the agenda. Mr. Musson, do you have some feedback?
Yes, yeah, I guess the current appointment that's up today is for Mike Scaparati. He's referred to us from the Little Italy Redevelopment Association. He's essentially selected by them to replace the seat that Sylvia McCone vacated at the end of last year. So he's essentially, neighborhood resident, has a history. I guess he's presented to this body in the past. He's got a history in historic preservation, and Little Italy feels that he would represent their neighborhood well. So staff is in support.
Okay, excellent. Any questions or comments on the nomination? Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are there any other vacancies on this particular?
Yes, all of the committees have, are allowed up to 11 members. And so I think all but just one of them have 11. I think they all have at least one or two vacancies on them. So if there are other potential members that you think of, please let us know.
Community members, they don't have to be members of the architectural community.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Community members are welcome. We want people who live in the neighborhoods, who live in the historic districts, as well as design professionals.
Any other questions or comments, Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did not receive a resume or description on, at least I don't recall getting one. You're even just.
I don't recall either, to be honest.
Okay.
I can certainly send one out.
Even, just a short.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a full resume.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I'm not remembering sending it out, to be honest. Yes. Yeah. I'm happy to do so. I apologize.
I know there's me who missed it.
None of us trust ourselves. Yeah. If I sounds like I had an oversight, I apologize for that.
No worries. Great catch, Ms. Anderson. So I guess the question is, yeah, I'm familiar with Mr. Scapriotti, even though I didn't see his resume. Do we feel comfortable approving the nomination, or do we want to see the resume before we formally approve? If you're not comfortable with it, then we would just table this until the next meeting.
It's not that I'm uncomfortable. I'm just, I'd probably be better in the future if we got him.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feedback, Mr.
I would say to make sure we're going through all of the right motions, maybe we do table this till our next meeting, just to make sure that we've all seen and been able to read up on Mr. Scaparrotti. I don't necessarily have any hesitations moving forward with the nomination, but I personally, I think would just like to make sure that we're doing our due diligence here on this side. So
okay, then.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I agree that consistency here would probably be the way to go.
Would you like to make a motion to table?
Yes, I'll move the
Wait,
table.
I'm sorry. Dr. Williams?
Oh, just want to echo that sentiment that I don't know Mr. Scaparrotti at all. So I would like to know a little something about him, and certainly would be willing to support the appointment if we all agree, based on the brief resume, that he would be a good addition to the Design Review Advisory Committee.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that feedback. Then, Ms. Anderson, do you want to finish your motion?
Yeah, I moved that we table.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Lozier. Any further discussion? No? Okay, Mr. Musson?
All right. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
Mr. Sambry?
Yes.
Mr. Trasick?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
And I apologize for that. I will send out his CV, his bio, immediately after this meeting. That was an oversight on my part.
Okay, so then we will move on to minutes. We had 3 minutes that were circulated yesterday, and are there any questions or comments on the 3 minutes, or would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what went on. I mean, it was last meeting, let alone something that, it's like, yeah, it looks about right to me. So, but I did find a couple of typos.
Okay.
On the January 27th, I think it's on page 4. It's the, it's like you have the address at 24, like 15 Franklin or whatever. And that, I think it should be 34.
Okay.
24 would put you in the Irish Town Bend area. So it would, so that you wouldn't have been there. And on, I think it's the August 29th, I think on page 3, it's a property on East Boulevard, and East is just, you typed it in the way I would type it in. It was incorrect.
Flipping a few letters, is that what you're saying?
It was like ESAT or something like that, so yeah.
Anything, great catch, anything else?
No, that's it. I'm not that good at finding that kind of stuff, so.
Okay, so a few modifications, but it sounds like they're minor enough that these could be approvable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll move to approve them.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
With the note that staff will make those corrections, run a spell check on it and before we finalize. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
Mr. Sambry?
Yes.
Mr. Trasick?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
And Ms. Trout?
Yes.
I'm sure the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. All right, well, that concludes no, the other side. Do we have any administrative reports today?
Just that we have budget hearings next week. So that's always a great opportunity to go before council and tell them what we've been up to for the past year. Let's see, just that we'll be closed on Monday for President's Day. So City Hall will be closed. And that recently at meeting earlier this week, the Wellman Seaver Morgan building was approved by the Development Planning and Sustainability Committee. So we expect that to get approved by council as our latest landmark at their meeting on Monday. And then we have the Cam's Corners Bank building coming shortly behind that. So moving along.
Excellent. Progress. All right, well then, if that concludes our administrative reports, then we will adjourn our meeting today and see everyone in 2 weeks on February 26th. Thank you and have a great day.